Welcome back to Scorpio Moon Astrology. Today we're taking a look at an astrological phenomenon that strikes fear in the hearts of many, the retrograde. But I'm going to tell you why you don't need to fear the retrograde. Every time a planet goes retrograde, somebody somewhere acts like the sky is falling. Mercury retrograde is usually the biggest offender. Suddenly every typo, delayed email, scheduling mishap and awkward text message becomes proof that Mercury is out to ruin our lives. If Venus goes retrograde, we're told relationships are doomed. If Mars goes retrograde, we're warned not to start anything important. But here's the thing, retrogrades aren't mistakes in the cosmic machinery. They're part of the design. A retrograde doesn't mean a planet's energy disappears. It doesn't mean you're cursed for the next few weeks. In fact, some planets spend nearly half the year retrograde. If retrogrades were inherently bad, we'd all be in a lot more trouble than we are. What retrogrades often do is invite us to take a second look. A conversation may need revisiting. A decision may need refining. A lesson may require another pass before we fully understand it. That's not a punishment, it's a process. So let's start with what a retrograde actually is. A retrograde occurs when a planet appears to move backward through the zodiac. The important word here is appears. The planet isn't actually reversing its orbit around the Sun. Retrograde motion is an optical illusion created by the different speeds at which the planets travel. Think about passing a slower car on the highway. For a brief moment, that car can appear to move backward relative to you, even though it's still moving forward. The same thing happens in the sky. From an astronomical perspective, nothing unusual is happening. From an astrological perspective, however, the apparent reversal often corresponds with a shift in focus. Instead of pushing relentlessly forward, we're invited to review, revisit, and reconsider. One thing many people don't realize is that the retrograde itself is only part of the story. Before a planet turns retrograde, it enters what astrologers call the pre-retrograde shadow. This is the section of the zodiac that the planet will eventually travel across 3 times. Once moving forward, once while retrograde, and once again after turning direct. Many astrologers consider the shadow period the setup phase. Themes that emerge during this time often become the focus of the retrograde itself. Then the planet slows dramatically before changing direction. This is called stationing retrograde. Because the planet is lingering on a particular degree, station points can feel especially significant, particularly if they contact important planets or angles in your natal chart. Next comes the retrograde itself, the review phase. Sometimes old projects return, sometimes conversations resume, sometimes we simply gain a new perspective on something we've already experienced. Eventually the planet stations direct and begins moving forward again. After that comes the post-retrograde shadow, when the planet retraces the same ground one final time. This is often where integration happens. What we've learned can finally be applied. This is one reason I don't view retrogrades as negative. Imagine that Saturn crosses an important point in your chart. The first pass introduces the lesson. The retrograde pass asks whether you've missed anything. The final direct pass allows you to integrate what you've learned. The process isn't about punishment, it's about refinement. Another thing worth understanding is that not all retrogrades feel the same. Mercury, Venus, and Mars tend to feel more personal because they affect our communication, relationships, and actions. Outer planets such as Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto often work on longer-term developmental themes and spend much longer in retrograde. In fact, several outer planets spend roughly 4 to 6 months retrograde every year. Once you realize that, retrogrades start looking a lot less unusual. Every few years, we also see periods where multiple planets are retrograde at the same time. 6 planet retrograde periods occurred in both 2022 and 2023. And another major retrograde cluster is expected in October 2026. While these periods are worth noticing, they're not reasons to panic. Think of them the way you might think about eclipses. They're significant, they're memorable, but they're part of the natural rhythm of the sky. Finally, it's important to remember that retrogrades affect everyone differently. A Mercury retrograde, moving back and forth over your sun or moon, is likely to feel much more meaningful than one occurring in a quiet area of your chart. That's why I always encourage people to look at where a retrograde is happening rather than relying on generic predictions. Instead of asking whether a retrograde is good or bad, ask yourself a different question. What is this retrograde asking me to notice? Because more often than not, a retrograde isn't trying to stop your progress. It's simply asking you to slow down long enough to make sure you're headed in the direction you truly want to go. If you'd like to understand how an upcoming retrograde interacts with your natal chart, consider booking a transit reading. Looking at the houses, planets, and themes being activated can help you work with the cycle rather than fear it. You'll find a link in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could use a little less retrograde panic in their life. Until next time, take care and keep looking to the stars.